A group of leading filmmakers and artists is calling for a boycott of an Israeli film festival due to open in London this week. In a letter to The Guardian, they urged the cinemas involved to cancel the screenings and reject the financial support of the Israeli state.
The Israeli state is promoting this festival and supporting it financially. By hosting it, these cinemas are ignoring the 2004 call by Palestinian civil society for sanctions against Israel until it abides by international law and ends its illegal displacement of Palestinians, discrimination against them, and occupation of their land. By benefiting from money from the Israeli state, the cinemas become silent accomplices to the violence inflicted on the Palestinian people. Such collaboration and cooperation is unacceptable.
Well, earlier I spoke to the film director Ken Loach, and he's among the high-profile names leading the calls for a boycott, and he believes the human rights of the Palestinian people have been ignored for far too long.
Well, the festival is a Israeli government-sponsored event, and it's promoted by them. And this is a government that is oppressing the Palestinians, it's stealing their land, it's massacring them. On a colossal scale, as we saw in Gaza, the most brutal acts of killing that were recorded and seen across the world. And as long as Israel breaks international law with impunity, as long as it kills the Palestinians in such numbers, as long as it makes daily life intolerable for Palestinian citizens, then I think citizens, artists, filmmakers have to stand up and say this is not acceptable.
So there's no line between politics and art here, because after all, in order for their work to be showcased, it needs to be funded, doesn't it?
No, it gets its funds from a state that is in breach of international law on a colossal scale. And you see, I think boycotts are a tactic. And we remember South Africa, where sport was fundamental to the South African character. Their sport was boycotted, apartheid ended. Israel sees itself as being very strong culturally, therefore the tactic requested by the Palestinians, not by people in the West, requested by Palestinians since 2004, I think is the right tactic, because our politicians are allowing Israel to conduct these illegalities with impunity.
It's a robust argument, but of course many would say people are being now, I suppose, paying the penalty for one country's foreign policy. So an entire nation, in effect, Israelis are now suffering as a result of what their government's doing, when in fact they may not have any say in that.
Well, they just elected the most right-wing prime minister in their history. Netanyahu just said the Palestinians will not have a state. The Prime Minister is denying them their human rights, while at the same time presenting Israel as this very benign, cultural, it's like European country. I mean, it even plays now football competitions. It even entered the Eurovision Song Contest. Well, we have to say Israel is not like an ordinary European country. It is actually perpetrating the most horrific crimes against its neighbours.
And yet the founders of the festival are saying many voices throughout Israel are being heard in this festival. Arab, Palestinians and, of course, Israelis. So there is a whole spectrum of voices being heard through this medium.
But you see, the Palestinians themselves have said, please don't go. The Palestinian filmmakers, who are not allowed to make films, are not allowed to travel across their land to make their own films. Palestinians who live outside have been expelled, their families expelled from their own land, not allowed to go back, not allowed to use some of the transport. This is an apartheid state, and civil society, as good citizens, we have to say this is not acceptable.
Some may say you're being hypocritical, because the freedom of arts the freedom of expression, of course, is showcased and championed throughout the UK here. It's one of our principles, and yet we're actually denying other people the same.
No, I think any individual filmmaker is not to be sanctioned or censored, but if they accept money from a state that has blood on its hands, that wantonly killed 2,000 Palestinians, that same state cannot then claim to be cultural and benign. It cannot promote itself through art. The festival organisers have said that it is Israel that is promoting art and promoting art through this festival. They can't have it both ways.
Just finally, from a filmmaker's point of view, how effective can film be in breaking down political barriers, do you think?
Well, I think film is hugely important. It's a very important medium, like books, like all art, it's hugely important, and it has to have value. You have to have values. You know, you have to respect the human. And filmmakers are also citizens. We didn't accept films from South Africa when the cultural boycott was happening there. Neither should we accept them from Israel.